How's it going, everyone? It's Sam. We have a massive problem. Now, don't get me wrong. I think crypto is actually the answer to this problem, but there's a massive problem that almost everyone in the world faces, and some people just don't realize the extent of it. So I want to explain that to you. I also want to talk about where we are in the crypto market right now, why we're actually looking pretty bullish right now, and why I am excited and have been adding to my bags over the last couple days. I did a video why it's time to buy Cardano, Solana, and then Polkadot. And I got a lot of comments saying, yeah, just keep on buying. But then a lot of comments were also saying, no, this is not the time to buy. They were very bearish. And I want to look at that. Now, if you guys don't mind, hitting the like button, hitting the subscribe button, I really appreciate that. This is going to be one take because I'm in between a couple family things. So I just want to bring this to you, though, because we do have some good news in the market and some things that I think a lot of people haven't thought about in this way before. Also, while you're down there hitting the like and subscribe, if you guys want, there is a link down there to BlockFi to get an interest rate on your crypto and get up to $250 worth of Bitcoin when you sign up. So that could be worth a significant amount down the line. So definitely check out that link if you haven't done that already. Now, Bitcoin's up over 50,000. This is a huge psychological level, and it's nice to see again. We have Ethereum looking more bullish too, up over 4,100. You know, we're about a day away from people being ultra bullish again, right? We have Solana back in the 170s, but really everything starts with Bitcoin, and everyone notices when Bitcoin's over 50,000. Now, we've held above that for just a couple hours here, but that is a good sign for most people. We have been watching that $50,000 level. The fear and greed index, we're still in fear right now. So we're in extreme fear just a few days ago. Maybe it was yesterday even, but now we're in fear. That's a good sign. So if we jump from 16 to 27, at least, maybe it's not a good sign. I like buying when we're in extreme fear, but you can see that the sentiment is changing a little bit, and that usually is good for price action. It's hard to tell. It's like the chicken or the egg. What comes first? But when people are getting greedy, they buy more. So that is another thing that is positive. Then also, we have the hash rates, the Bitcoin hash rates hitting all-time highs. So we are recovered from the China ban, basically saying, hey, there's more computing power. It's more secure than ever now on the Bitcoin network. Now, what's the massive problem we face? It's inflation. And of course, everyone's been talking about this recently, but I will frame this in a way that you probably haven't thought about before. So obviously, we saw 6.8% inflation the other day, and we're kind of in this trap, right? We've seen it in the past where inflation was going up, or we had to raise rates, I suppose, is what happened in 2018. We had to start raising rates because they were so low for so long. And because we raised rates, the market dipped. People did not like that. So we had severe swings. Do you remember that right around Christmas where we started to drop like crazy? Well, that's something that the Fed is very cautious about. They're trying to prop up the economy. There are too many people that are retiring right now or already retired that can't take a 20, 30, 40% dip, especially because we are in kind of a bad economic state compared to just a few years ago because things are still backed up. So they're being very cautious right now. So they can't just go and raise rates like crazy next year. They have to be very cautious about it, which means inflation is going to be around longer. Now, a lot of people are saying that inflation 6.8%, that's what's in CPI. But if we look at how they measured CPI 40 years ago, when we actually had the last time that we had a CPI this high, they measured it differently. So it's been changing over time. If we measured it the same way, it would be in the double digits significantly. And remember, that's just the consumer price index. If you're someone that's trying to store wealth, sure, the cost of your eggs going up 30% matters a little bit, but the majority of your money is probably going to investments, and it matters more what investments are costing than what your eggs do or your cheese or stuff like that. So how much are assets going up? How much is asset price inflating? Well, in the US, we had a 13% rise in the average home price. That's one thing to look at, and I'd say that's pretty conservative. Some people are saying it's much higher than that. Cryptocurrencies, the whole market cap went from 562 billion. Now, even with this recent dip, it's still 4x what it was a year ago. If you look at VOO, it's up 30% this year. So average those together, we're looking at 15 to 20% inflation. That's a huge amount. That's how you actually become wealthy. So that's why I think Bitcoin can be the answer. Bitcoin specifically, but other cryptos too. Look at the supply in tons of gold. So a lot of people say gold is a good inflation hedge. It's shown that in the past, but look at how this is going up and to the right. As time goes on, it becomes more efficient. Maybe people get a little bit greedier. And look at Bitcoin. So Bitcoin's still inflationary, but only about 1.7%. 1.7% is not very much. And as time goes on, it becomes less and less inflationary. And miners aren't even selling. Miners aren't selling. So there's really nothing that is inflating because they're just holding on to it. Also, you have to remember too, more and more Bitcoin's lost all the time. So really it's deflationary in a way. And we've seen maybe 4 to 5 million Bitcoin actually lost over time. You also have to remember too, Bitcoin is one of the only things that if the price goes up, you can't inflate it. Like think about that for a second. And I heard Michael Saylor talk about this the other day. Think about any other asset, right? Let's say a stock goes up. The company obviously just issues more shares because they want the cash. They think it's overvalued, so they sell off more shares, they get more cash. The opposite's also true, so they could buy back if they think it's low. But that's why people go public, because they want access to cash. So stock goes up, they inflate you, you get brought back down. So you can also think about it with houses, right? If the town that I'm in starts getting really hot and there are a bunch of people that want to move here, well, they just build more. Now, of course, some people say you can't build more land, which is true, but you can make buildings higher. You can make them more congested. There are a lot of ways to get around that. You could just build slightly further out, but that does bring more supply. But there's not any more supply in Bitcoin. More people want it. It's harder to get it. It's harder to get, and there's no way of inflating it, right? It's set. So that's where some people say, hey, Bitcoin's not a great inflation hedge because when inflation's high, the price goes down. That's because people are worried about the short-term interest rates. But you have to realize that long-term, it's one of the best things to fight against inflation, right? If you're thinking about something that is a hedge against inflation, something that fights inflation, you want something that goes up higher than inflation. So if we're looking at 7% inflation, you need something that's going to outperform by more than 7%. And Bitcoin is one of the best performing assets over the last decade. I think it's 9 of the last 11 years. It has outperformed every other asset class. So that's just something to consider. And that's something that I hadn't really heard before, is that Bitcoin obviously is one of the only assets that you can actually not inflate. Now, of course, I already knew that, but I didn't think about it in terms of every other asset that you want. It's malleable, right? You can change how much there is out there, which is fascinating. Now, one other thing that I want to bring up, a smaller cap, I talk about a decent amount on the channel, is Phantasma. They were just added to the metaverse section of CoinMarketCap. So this is actually done fairly well. It shot up from $1.29 when I bought it, and it went up to $3.97. And now it's back down to $2.52, but it's been coming up. So it actually fell down much more than this. I think it was around $1.80 or so. Now it's starting to come back up, but it is cool to see that it's finally in the metaverse section. It was already in the NFT section, but it is being added there, which I think obviously just makes it easier to find and more people will see it and wonder about it and look it up and stuff like that. I do have a video on it. If you guys want that, is one of the best, I think one of the best smaller caps to invest in that isn't crazy risky. Like it is in NFTs in the metaverse, but it's not a single project. It's a layer one that goes and builds with a lot of other projects. So I think it is something that you should take a look at. I'll put that on the end screen, but let me know your thoughts on crypto underneath the video. Let me know your thoughts on Bitcoin. Do you think now is the time to buy? Do you think you should wait until it's under 50? Of course, everyone always says that they're going to buy it when it falls, but then a lot of people don't have the ability to, either because they don't have cash or they don't have the guts to do it. But let me know your thoughts. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it, and I will see you in the next video. Check out the link down below to BlockFi.